You've heard Jason Roberts, you've heard Jem Karachan, and now I'm delighted to welcome a third member of Reading's promotion winning squad for 2011-12. It is Captain Jobi McAnuff. Jobi, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you, yeah. So we'll go back to when you first moved to Reading, 2009. Obviously, it was Brendan Rodgers in charge of the club then. You worked under him at Watford. How much of an impact did he have on your decision to come to Reading?
Yeah, it was massive, really. I kind of got to know Brendan well, obviously, from our time at Watford together, and was instantly impressed with, his tactics, his ideas, his coaching, everything, really. He was, real top coach at that point, obviously young and up and coming, but one I felt, would go on another really good career in the game. And obviously when he left to go to Reading, I was delighted when, he called to ask if I'd like to come and obviously join him. So, obviously very thankful for him and that decision to take me there. And, really enjoyed working with him, both at Watford and obviously for the short time at Reading that he was there.
Yeah, and obviously he was trying to implement sort of total football, a system that Jaap Stam is currently trying to do at the club at the moment. And the players do they struggle to adapt to that?
Well, I think results would say yes.
Yeah.
In the short term, it's not something that is necessarily easily implemented. I think particularly with a system that, prior to that had been probably a bit more direct and a bit more, 4-4-2 and people running the channels and, in their very own way, very successful. And I think, he needed that time to really mould his squad and get, his type of players in, which for me you need, if you're going to play a certain system, you can't have sort of square pegs in round holes, so to speak. And I think that was a little bit his problem. And obviously because the results weren't forthcoming, that obviously pressure increases and maybe there's a little bit of a call to go back to what people had been used to, I suppose, and probably what at the time the bulk of the squad had been used to, in order to get the results. So, it was difficult for him, I'm sure, at the time, because he saw it as a longer term process, I think. And unfortunately, he wasn't afforded the time that he would have needed to go on and do great things with the club, which I think he would have done. So, unfortunately, that was, the situation at the time. And, he obviously was only there for, 6 months or so.
Yeah. You talk about his sacking there. What was the sort of general feeling around the dressing room at that time? Was it, did the team feel that they wanted him to stay and that they wanted to give him more time, or was it a case of, well, this isn't really working, a change is perhaps needed?
No, I mean, as players, we were very much focused on the way that he wanted to play, and obviously we're trying to implement the things that he wanted us to do on the pitch, to get results. And, I for one, and I know, a lot of the other lads were disappointed because we enjoyed it. I think you speak to any footballer and they say, you've got a manager who wants you to get the ball down, pass the ball, pass out of defence, play through midfield. Everyone's involved in the game, and you look at some of the best teams in the world, and as a player, you'd want to be a part of that, really. So, as I say, I think the overall feeling was disappointment, that he wasn't given time. Clearly, you have to understand that it is a results business, and I can see the reasoning behind it from that point of view. And unfortunately, generally, people just are not given the time these days to get their kind of methods across, really.
Yeah. So then Brian McDermott came in and seemed to sort of give the whole squad a lift, and you ended up finishing 9th and going on a pretty good FA Cup run. What did he come in and change within the squad?
I think, Brian came in and, the fact that he knew a lot of the players, obviously, from his time at the club, I think was a big factor. It wasn't a massive upheaval. It always is difficult when a manager leaves. But, I think something Brian did very quickly was, to get the squad together, and, he made it clear very early on, probably not to the press, but to us, inside the camp, that he wanted the job as manager. that he'd be doing everything he could to make that happen. So, we got the lads on board straight away. I hadn't really had much experience of him before that, other than just, seeing him around the training ground and stuff. But I know some of the other lads knew him well, and clearly we responded well to him. I think from his point of view, it's a matter of just simplifying things and stripping things back a little bit. And obviously probably going back a little bit to, the previous era in terms of the type of football and, getting it wide and getting the wingers involved, which obviously suited myself and, Jimmy Kebe in particular, and the other wide players at the time. And, I think results proved that, he came in and as I say, did a great job from the outset, really.
Yeah. I mentioned the FA Cup run there. We've had a couple of questions on Twitter about, remember that run against Liverpool in the FA Cup?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
We've had a couple of questions. Do you ever think about that, and what do you think about what might have been if that had gone in?
I don't think about it too much. It's one of those things that would have been great, obviously, if the goal if it had gone in. It's only really I want to get reminded by the likes of Jem. I saw him in the summer, and he's always one to mention that. But no, it was, it's one of those things. I'm, proud to have been a part of a team that went up to Anfield and won. And I think the fact that we did win, it really took the edge off for me in terms of, missing the opportunity of what would have been, a fantastic FA Cup goal. But, overall, I've always been about the team and, individual accolades or moments really for me are secondary in what is very much, a team game. And as I say, overall, the fact that we won the game for me was far more important than, scoring that goal.
Yeah, of course. So then the following season obviously was the season where we made the playoffs. And got a 0-0 draw against Cardiff in the first leg, followed by the 3-0 win back in Wales, which is a game I probably won't ever forget. I think it was an incredible night. I think, especially as a former Cardiff player, what was it like for you that night, especially to get on the score sheet as well?
Yeah, it was fantastic. It's one of my career highlights, really. Looking back on it even now, the fact it was such a sort of high pressure game, given the draw in the first leg. We were confident. We felt, especially going away, we were, a real handful really for teams to handle, and obviously that's the way it played out really. And we managed to get our noses in front, and then we never really looked back. So the way the ball dropped, and then managing to just sort of jig my way through, and that feeling of that was it really. Once that third one went in, it was game over, and I think you can see the kind of reaction on everyone's faces. But we knew we'd done it, and we got to a final. And yeah, it was a fantastic night. I'd say one that will live long in the memory.
Mm-hmm. So then, of course, there was the heartbreak at Wembley, which is still difficult to talk about, I think, where you found yourselves 3-0 down at half time against Swansea. What exactly went wrong from being Cardiff 3-0 to being 3-0 down at half time at Wembley? What went wrong, and what was said in the dressing room at half time?
Well, I think, credit to Swansea on the day for coming out and playing very, very well. I think on the pitch, the way they played, they were very expansive, and, they had some very, very good players. And so you look back on the team that, we were up against, they were, a real top team, and players that have gone on and had really good careers and done really well. But I think we just, as I say, didn't start very well. They definitely had the upper hand, and we were just a bit all over the place defensively. Weren't really getting close to them, even as forwards, and I think we were just a bit shell-shocked, really. I think, as I say, we had a real bad start, and the first one goes in, and it's like the last thing you want to happen, and the second one, and then you're just like, oh man, this is like ready to finish now. I think for a lot of us at half time, you kind of going in there, and it's just a matter of saying, look, we've got nothing to lose. We've had a long, hard season, and we just didn't want to go out in that manner in terms of, being an easy victory for them, which it was in the first half. They were well on top, and, there were definitely a few words said at half time, and, just trying to get each other going and just to spark something up really for the second half, because, as I say, whatever the outcome, and by then you're not really looking at winning the game, you're just trying to get a bit of pride back and, really just as I say, taking something from it, which at the time looked a long way off. But, we all know what happened. Obviously, we started very well and managed to get a goal back. And then all of a sudden, the momentum swings and, we get the second one. And for me, that was it. There was only going to be one winner at that point, really. And obviously, we had the chance to come back off the post. But, we were so on top that, they looked like they'd gone, really. And, obviously it's unfortunate with the penalty incident that really just got them out of jail, I felt, because if we'd have nicked another one and, taken it to extra time, then I think, as I say, with the momentum and the way the game had gone, we all felt that we would have gone on and won the game. But obviously it wasn't to be. And, for me, even today still, it was a certain low point in my career, which was ironic coming after the Cardiff game, because that was very much a high point, and you're talking about 10 days or whatever apart. So, it was a real tough one, a real hard pill to swallow, and, one that, everyone took badly. Obviously, to lose a playoff final is, obviously a horrible experience, and one that at the time was, as I say, a real hard one to get over.
Yeah, was there a feeling at the time that you'd sort of blown your chance of getting to the Premier League? I think you lost Shane Long as well that summer. Was there?
Yeah.
Was there a sort of feeling as though that was sort of the opportunity gone, or was there sort of the chance you thought to build on that?
No, I think immediately it was that. Obviously that's the only thing you can think. And then you have the whole summer, and then fixtures come out, and then you're seeing who Swansea have got, and. It was a real tough summer that year, and it's just one of two ways you go from there. Either you sit down and you mope about and you say, well, that was our chance, or you use it to spur you on. And I think overall, when in the cold light of day, when you really look at it and where we'd come from, particularly since Brian had come in, bottom half of the table to going up to be challenging for playoffs. We knew if we could keep the squad intact, that we would have a good chance because of the way we played and what we had in the dressing room. We believe we could really go and do well. So obviously losing Longy was a big factor for us. He's obviously a top player, and then obviously Millsy left as well. So it was just about really regrouping and just setting the goals again and making sure we're ready, come the start of the next season, really.
Yeah, so you mentioned Matt Mills leaving there, which meant you were given the captaincy. How was that for you?
Fantastic. It was something that I hadn't thought about too much. Obviously, I go about my business, around the changing room, around the club, on the pitch, whatever, and, it doesn't really change for me whether I've got an armband on or not. Bry pulled me to one side while we were away in Slovenia and, asked me if I'd want to do it. And obviously, I jumped at the chance and, he gave me his reasons, behind his position, which, really were a big boost for me because, it was just nice to be acknowledged as, one of the leaders, I suppose, and someone that, had the respect of the group. I had a good chat with Andy Griffin at the time, got so much respect for, and it was a real great lad for us, and, he also had some very complimentary things to say, which, as I say, for me, just really confirmed everything that I kind of had thought in my head, but it was nice to hear it from, such a good senior pro and, say, someone I got on really well with, and, there wasn't really much to think about, and, once it all got announced and, the boys, took it well, and, I had a great relationship with all the lads there and everyone at the club. It was a special club for me, and to be able to, lead the team out, and be the captain was, a massive honour, and, one I'll always be appreciative of, and one that I relished as well.
Yeah. So then the first half of that 2011-12 season was sort of semi-okay, I reckon.
It was standard Reading. We were always slow starters.
Yeah.
We kind of we knew we had the second half of the season sort of in the tank, and it was just about getting ourselves in a position, come Christmas and New Year to kind of really, attack really. And that was a good thing with Bry. He was never, I wouldn't say concerned with like being right up the top, but it was a real whole season mentality. You know, it wasn't just, well, we're not right at the top of the table in September or October. You know, it's kind of, as I say, building up, and you know, our work and our training was always, you know, gearing up for that sort of second half of the season, and that was when we traditionally would come strong. So, you know, we were always confident that, you know, putting ourselves in a position, you know, we'd have half a chance, and obviously, you know, that's how it panned out. But I don't think anyone could have foreseen the run that we went on.
It was an incredible run, and obviously Jason Roberts came in January. How much of an impact did he have on the team, and was he sort of like the final piece of the jigsaw, so to speak?
I think for that team, you know, certainly Jace gave us a big boost, you know, once again, not just on the pitch, but, you know, around the dressing room. You know, he's obviously a good character, and I think that's another thing, you know, I've got to really commend Brian for, you know, not being scared of, you know, having big personalities and big characters, because for me, you know, you look at any teams that are successful, you know, you need them. You know, even the previous Reading team that went up and did so well, you know, the Sidwells and the Harpers, Graham Murtys, you know, all those kind of guys, you know, they are big characters. And, you know, I think we had that, you know, Mikel Legerwood, Castor Gorks, obviously Andy Griffin played a part, Jason Roberts came into it, you know, to complement the younger group of lads that we had that had come through the system. You know, you need those senior pros, and you know, they were all a big help for me during my captaincy, you know, for sure. So, you know, Robbo definitely came in and gave us a boost at a critical time, and he was a real leader of the line, and you know, he held the ball up well and allowed us to get up and support. And you know, I think a lot of the games that we won there were, you know, we'd nick a win somewhere, or you know, tight games, but you know, the details and, you know, the resilience that we showed during that run, you know, to not lose games and not concede early goals or easy goals were, you know, key factors in us going on that run that went off. Obviously, Alfie played a massive part, you know, often as a impact substitute, but you know, everyone sort of played their role. Everyone knew what had to be done, and even lads that were not necessarily regulars in the team, the J Tabs, Sean Cummins, you know, people like that would come in and do a fantastic job, and we wouldn't feel like we were missing players, you know, even if people were injured or suspended or whatever. You know, I felt at that period that the whole squad was on a par with each other, and, you know, would really come in and, you know, back each other up. So I think that was our big strength. You know, we did everything together, and it wasn't about one individual. You know, it was really about, you know, team ethic, and I think that's what really got us over the line in the end.
Mm-hmm. At what point during that season did you sort of think you actually could do it? Because obviously West Ham and Southampton had pretty much dominated the top two for most of the season. So was there a particular game or a moment where you thought, you know, we can do this?
I think those teams, when we played those, because we knew that's what it was going to come down to. Obviously, we got ourselves on a great run and got ourselves on the shoulders of them guys, and then we knew we had them coming up, and you know, we all knew that it would be about those results really as to the automatic promotion places. And, you know, going to St Mary's and winning there was massive, you know, real great night, you know, one that I think gave them a bit of a shock, you know, and I think everyone else kind of stood up and thought, hang on a minute, these lot are pretty serious now, you know, rather than being a sort of there or thereabouts. They've had a good run, they'd fade off into the playoffs and then, you know, whatever. And obviously going to Upton Park and, you know, doing the same there. I think, they were the moments really that we knew, you know, we weren't going to be stopped that season, and the momentum was very much with us. And, you know, to go and turn both of them two over in their own grounds was a clear indication that, you know, we were very serious about going up.
So then obviously the promotion came against Nottingham Forest. There's an iconic video of you screaming at the camera, "What's happening? Are we up?" That will stick in my mind for a long time. What were your emotions from that night?
Well, it's funny because the amount of people that have said, "Well, did you not realise there was 10,000 people on the pitch at the time?" I'm like, well, no, because the game's going on. Obviously, we knew there was a possibility, but going into the night, you weren't guaranteed. It wasn't like if we won, we definitely would have gone up or anything like that. So, obviously, it was other results, depend on other results. So, obviously, you're in the game, and I think that's the thing that other people, while they can get the results, they know what's happening, they know what's going on off the pitch and around the grounds, and you're just solely focused on that game and obviously getting a win.
Yeah.
You know, and once we had won the game, you know, obviously it started filtering round, and you know, I just wanted a bit of confirmation. I think for someone to tell me that's it, we're up, you know, was what I was looking for at that moment in time. And you know, when I got that confirmation, it was just like the best feeling in the world, you know, that I've ever really had on a football pitch. And you know, that night is just one that, you know, to do it at home, and you know, especially after the season before, where, as I say, we were on the floor, man. You know, it was a real tough time, and to come through it with that group of lads as well, which, you know, for me is, you know, the most special group of lads I've ever played with. You know, it was just fantastic. Yeah, I just loved every minute of it, and obviously the fans coming on and us going up into the boxes and just looking down, you know, on a sort of sea of blue and white and the faces, and it's fantastic. You know, you know, real highlight, obviously, of my career, and one I will certainly treasure forever.
Yeah. So was that a boyhood dream almost fulfilled when you played in the Premier League, and like especially as captain as well? Yeah,
definitely. It was something for me that, you know, especially after the Swansea game. I mean, that was my fourth playoff defeat. I had 2 semis and 2 finals, and you kind of get to the point, especially age-wise, where you're thinking, right, that's going to be it, because by then it's kind of a matter of having to go up with a team. And you know, definitely after the Swansea game, you know, it was a real question mark for myself and whether I'd ever get there, and you know, to be able to do it with Reading, as I say, and to lead the team, you know, into the Premier League, and knowing that would be the case was, you know, just put the icing on the cake, really, and made it extra special, obviously, walking out that first game. And, you know, it was a definite lifelong ambition achieved, and something that I'd worked very, very hard for, like a lot of the other lads. You know, a lot of stuff that people don't see, and you know, the knockbacks, the hard work, the injuries. You know, it's all because you want to get somewhere, you want to achieve something, and you know, to be able to actually do that was you know, a fantastic achievement, really, and another one that I'm very proud of doing.
So obviously, unfortunately, it wasn't a great season in the Premier League, and Brian was sacked towards the end of the campaign. What were your thoughts on that, and why do you think the season didn't quite go to plan?
It's a good question. Obviously, one that, you know, you look back on with a lot of regret. I think for us, probably at the time, you know, there's a lot of inexperienced players at that level, and I think, quite honestly, we could have done with, you know, a few more signings, you know, that had played in the Premier League and that had that sort of know-how and experience at that level. You know, I'm not talking like 5 or 6 or 7, but, you know, even sort of 2 or 3 that would come into the team. And I think over our time, you know, that's what we always did well. You know, we brought Mikel Ledgetwood in, who at the time came in and was fantastic for us, you know, when he first came to the club and for his whole time there, really. But he really brought the level of that midfield area up a notch, you know, because all of a sudden, you know, he came in and it was like, right, who's going to play with Ledge? So the other boys around that, you know, the Gems, the Tabbies, you know, everyone else, you know, Brynjar for a period, you know, they've got to then raise their level. You know, it's the same with Kasper Gortz when he came in at the back. You know, all of a sudden, you know, he was our guy, you know, so now it's sort of who's going to play with Kasper, you know, it's like brings their level up again. Same with Robbo when he comes in up front, you know, and I feel we didn't quite do that when we went up to the Premier League. You know, it wasn't a matter of somebody coming in being right, I'm the guy, and then everyone else then has to jump up to that level again. And, you know, it's a fantastic league. The quality is, you know, out of this world. You know, there'd be games where you'd go up there and we'd be okay, you know, we'd be all right, you know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. But, and then something, bang, you know, one chance or one moment of brilliance, or, you know, and we didn't quite have enough the other end in terms of probably creating enough goals and scoring enough goals, which once again is, you know, I think a bit down to a bit of experience. And, you know, as I say, it's a tough league up there, and we just weren't good enough that season. I think that, you know, we all have to look at ourselves and, you know, be honest with ourselves. And, you know, that was obviously the case because we got relegated. So, you know, some good times, and obviously ones that, you know, a lot of us enjoyed in terms of mixing it and competing. There weren't a lot of games that we were like blown out of the water by any means. You know what I mean? I think that a couple of Spurs games obviously were tough, Arsenal's, but pretty much, we really had a fight and gave a good account of ourselves. But we just didn't quite have that enough, around the whole squad really to do enough to stay up.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the sort of the lack of Premier League quality signings there. We had a question come in from Ed Riding on Twitter who asked about what did you make of the January signings to Nick Blackman, Hopak Pan, and Daniel Calico? Were they sort of obviously Daniel didn't sort of live up to the expectations. What were your thoughts on those three signings at the time?
Well, I think once again it's for me, and obviously I've got great respect for all the lads. I mean, Danny in particular, because he came and didn't really play, but the way he handled himself and the way he was around the squad, he's a credit to himself. And so there are things that a lot of fans don't really see, but, he never moaned. He got on with his work. He trained hard every day and was a real valuable member of the squad. It was, in terms of Nick and Hopey, once again, at that level, they just weren't tried and tested, like the rest of us, and I think that was a point that, if they'd gone out and got, senior players, as I say, players that had been there, done it, had a bit more experience, that would have come straight into the team. We didn't at that time particularly need more squad players. It was, for me, would have been a matter of like come in and I say to really strengthen that 11 that goes out there. And I think from those guys' point of view, they came in and did as well as they could, but it's always a hard task, to come in at that level when you haven't played there yet.
Yeah. Were you aware of much of what was going on sort of behind the scenes of the club at the time with Anton Zingarevic and sort of he seemed to sort of disappear a little bit? Were the players aware of what was going on behind the scenes?
Not fully. Obviously, we had an indication with the lack of signings that something wasn't quite right because, we needed a hand. It was as simple as that, really. And, the fact that we'd gone up and, you'd like to have thought there was a few quid knocking about, to even get a couple of loan signings in, but that didn't really happen. And, obviously we're fully focused on the job in terms of, trying to get out of the situation that we were in, because obviously Christmas, we were right down the bottom and actually ended up having a really good, I think it was January, I think it was. And,
$100 a month, I think.
Yeah, and we kind of thought, right, we can get out of this now. We let's say put in some good performances and managed to get those results that didn't quite come previously. We all sort of thought at that point that maybe we could just do enough, and I think that, as I say, would have been the key towards the end of that window. If we could have just got that 2 or 3 extra in a bit of quality, that we could have stayed up, I felt.
Mm-hmm. So the decision then came at the end of the season back in the Championship, at the end of that season back in the Championship, not to renew your contract. Did you have much say in that, or was it sort of decision made by the club?
No, it was made by the club. Obviously, I was very disappointed. I felt I still had a lot to offer, on the pitch and off the pitch at the club. And, it was just a strange time, really. I think, obviously, the manager was fairly new. Obviously, Bri had gone in March, which I thought was a bit of a strange one because at that time, it looked as though the writing was kind of on the wall. And, for me, if we were going to go down, there was only one man who would have been there to get us back up with, the same group of players. You have to look at sort of a Burnley and, clubs that really stick by the managers. They went straight back up with Daesh, and I felt at the time we could have done the same with Bri. But, there's a lot of factors behind it. Fans are frustrated and owners are frustrated. And I think it was, by then, for me, a little bit too little too late by getting Nigel Adkins in. And, there's only so much he was going to do with the same playing staff. It wasn't as though he came in and could go and get his own players and stuff like that. So, obviously he had his own way of doing things and his own direction and the way that he wanted to go. And clearly I didn't fit in with that. So, that was it, really.
Mm-hmm. Simeon Pickup, who asked, do you still follow Reading's results?
Yeah, definitely. I've still got, some good friends down there. Chris Gunter, Gareth McCleary, a few of the younger lads, that I obviously played with and was there when they were coming through. So, for sure, it's a club that for me in my career, it's, my most successful period. And, one I was there the longest for. So it was, for me, really, I call Reading home, and, a club that, I very much follow still, and obviously was gutted to see them go through the agony of losing on penalties last season. But, hopefully history can repeat itself, and, they can get themselves up this season.
Yeah, I think we're all hoping for that. George Stanford asks, what was your favourite Reading goal and why?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Yeah, maybe the Cardiff one, I think, just in terms of the magnitude of the game, and just the sort of fact it was against an old club, and just the whole night really there was great. So yeah, I'd say probably that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We had a couple of questions on what your plans are. I mean, I know it's difficult for footballers to talk about retirement, but what your plans are after you finish your playing career. Would you ever come back to Reading to coach? I know you've got the like an academy agency with Lionel Morgan. Is that still going on?
Yeah, I'm sort of doing a little bit and bobs with that sort of stuff. So that's one avenue. But yeah, certainly coaching and getting back involved at the club at some point would be fantastic. As I say, I've still got a lot of people there. I actually went in the other day because of Mikel Ledgerwood's obviously working down there now, and I went in and just saw a few old faces, and it was really nice to catch up with people, because you don't really get a chance to go back, which is probably, while I'm still playing, it's difficult to get back for a game or whatever, because our schedules are obviously very similar. So, it's definitely, an intention of mine to get back down there at some point when I do finish playing. And, as I say, for me, it's a club that has been a integral part of not just my career, but my life, really. So, I'd love to be involved in some capacity one day.
And finally, we had Derek Walmsley asking about your thoughts on the ownership issues at Leyton Orient. Obviously, you've just rejoined for a season. What thoughts on the ownership issues there?
What, the new ones or the old ones?
Well, the sort of changeover, and sort of why you decided to move then and to drop down to.
Yeah, well, obviously the old regime have moved on. And obviously the guys there now are very much, people with the club at heart, that want a club to move in the right direction. And, I think from my point of view, it's a fantastic club. It's just one that was, needed better guidance and better management, from above. And I say now that they've got it, I feel that the club can really start, just making up for lost ground, really, which the last 3 years have been. It's been a real bad period for the club. And unfortunately, sometimes, owners come in and they don't take, the steps they should do to look after clubs. And, I think that's, definitely not the case now with the new owners. They'll come in and they only want good things for Leyton Orient. So hopefully, I can be part of, getting the club back where they belong, really.
The Tilehurst End Podcast. Read the blog on the Tilehurst